We're going to be looking at plant water and mineral movement. There are many factors involved in transporting water and minerals. It's going to be transported by the xylem, is provided for support as well as conducting tissue. What we're going to be looking at is how can we get water from the roots all the way up to the top of a tree. And to do that, we have some specialized structures. These are two of the three definitions that start on the paper. The third one is going to be we're going to talk about later on. The first one is just going to talk about the two types of cells involved in transport. The tracheid, or dead cells that are tapered at one end, and then we have the vessel elements. The vessel elements have thickened, lignified walls that are much better in providing support. Notice both these are dead cells. The vessel elements have pits and pores, which allow water to move out through these sides, but it also has perforations that allow water to move out the other end of the cell. So these can make a long tube that will connect together. When looking at the evolution of plants, they like to discuss that the ancient plants are mainly the tracheids, where the more modern plants have the vessel elements. So the question is, how do we get the movement of water and minerals through the tree? Because the problem we have is, if I bring some sample of water over here, and I'll take a capillary tube, and I take this capillary tube, place it in the water, you can see that water moves up the tube, but that's as far as water will go up the tube. So how do we get the water to keep going, like we're looking at the xylem inside a plant? How do we get the water to keep going? And so we have special structures in the plant that help, and ideas that help us with that. So these are the 6 processes. I'm going to discuss the 6 processes on the other side, but if you want to pause the video and use these to be your explanation for the questions that we have. The first part of it is water has a cohesive and adhesive property. So here's our water molecule. Here's our second water molecule. The water molecules are attached together here with a hydrogen bond, and this is a cohesive force, putting 2 molecules together. The adhesion force is allowing it to adhere to the side of the tube. And so what we need to look at then is the structure of a leaf and how this works with this whole idea. So looking at the figure, the structure of the leaf had the stomata. The stomata allow water to leave. As water leaves, this makes a low concentration area where water will now want to move in there. As the water moves up, it will again want to evaporate out the stomata. And with this evaporation, there's going to be a pressure that's kind of pulling up water with the adhesive cohesive forces up the xylem. And the xylem have the ability to help water move up by having these special parts of the cells that'll kind of help water adhere to the side of the xylem. And then we have inside the roots, where the roots have the root hairs that are bringing water into the root and then passing it into the xylem. So inside the root we have a thing called root pressure. Aiding the push up of the water up is root pressure. This occurs when ions concentrate inside the root, and since there's ions, there's going to be low concentration of water, so water's going to move into that area. As water moves in, this is really going to fill up with water, creating pressure to move up the xylem. So with all that working together, we have the ability to take water from the roots all the way up to the top of the tree. So then we know how water gets to the top. How do we get the nutrients to move around? Well, the movement of organic molecules. So unlike the xylem, phloem is made up of living cells. Xylem cells conduct water minerals only upwards from the roots. Phloem cells transport their contents in various directions. However, the direction is based on a single principle. It's going to move from source to a sink. A source is going to be any type of plant organ that is producing sugar, either by the photosynthesis like it would be in the leaves, or by the hydrolysis of starch like it might do in the roots. So leaves are going to be the primary source of the sugar. And so a sink is a plant organ that uses or stores the sugar. And so some sinks would be a root will want to store buds, stems, seeds. They're all going to need the energy, so they're going to be sinks. Now we do have some that could be a sink and a source depending on what's happening. If they spent the whole summer storing energy in a tuber, they will store it. Then in the spring, energy will then move from the tuber up to the rest of the plant. So the tuber first was a sink, putting energy into it. Then in the summer it becomes a source, allowing energy to leave. This movement is our third definition. Is moving organic molecules is called translocation. And it is made up of the sap. It is the composition of sap. Sap is made of sugars, amino acids, plant hormones, and RNA. So the next question is, how do we get the sap to move through the tree? And how this works is, looking at our figure, we're going to have a high sucrose concentration here. High sucrose concentration means it's going to need water to diffuse in there through osmosis. So we have transpiration bringing water up. Water will then pass from the xylem into the phloem, and now making it a high concentration of water. And this pressure flow will push the sap down. At the bottom down here, you're going to see where the sucrose is in low concentration now, because it's being added to the sink. And when it's added to the sink, it forms starches, which are insoluble, and they don't exert this osmotic force anymore. So it's going to be low concentration of solutes. So then water will move from the phloem back to the xylem, and then it can move back up again. Now this movement across from the high concentration gradients to low concentration gradients are active transport, and they involve the sieve tube and the companion cells. Sieve tubes are dead, companion cells are alive, which they will, through active transport, force sugars either into the sieve tube or the phloem, or they'll push it out of the sieve tube or the phloem. And where I got that information from was on the next paragraph. It talks about the loading of sugar into the sieve tubes at the source, and the removal of the sugar is accomplished by active transport. Only the loading of the removal of the sugar from the sieve tube requires energy. All the rest of the process is just called passive process, just through diffusion.